with me, right? As you grow up, you become more intelligent. And it's just common sense. I mean, the older you are, the more experiences you have. The more experiences you have, the more wisdom you collect. The more wisdom you collect, the less impressionable you are. Well, if all that is true, then what age is the easiest to trick, to manipulate, to push around? Kids. For decades, cigarette companies targeted kids. Their ads, their commercials were geared for one thing: to get you to smoke, to get children to smoke. Why? Because they knew their product was addictive. And then if they could grab you early, you'd be hooked for life. Fact: 90% of cigarette smokers began before they turned 18. It works. Same can be said about religion. Nearly 60% of people going to church leave during their teenage years. Think about that. Bear with me here. I need everybody to stand up for a second. Everybody just go ahead and stand up. Let's have from here over. Sit down. From here over. Sit. During your teenage years, these are the people that just left the church. These are the people that have stayed throughout their teenage years. Imagine if this is our Wyldlife right here, every Sunday. You guys are no longer here. This is our group. Thank you. Sit up. Why? Why does this happen? Why do so many people, why do so many teenagers turn away from God during their teenage years? Easy, really. Satan. Hate Satan. Hate Satan. I know it's like a really strong word to say. You're always told it growing up. You should never use that term. I don't care. I hate Satan. He's a bully. He's the evil cigarette company who targets teenagers, trying to attack you emotionally. He wants to throw you into a pit of darkness where you're blind to God's love and the love of those around you. He wants to stress you out. So where does all this stress come from? Well, just general body and hormone changes that you guys go through as teenagers, family issues, a loss of a loved one, loss of a pet, school. As a teacher, I hate saying that, but school. Social issues like your physical appearance, bullies, sex, friendships, whether or not you're in love. What can excessive stress lead to? Depression. Depression is the devil's pit of darkness. He wants to throw you in there so you're blind to all that's good. He'll trick, manipulate, and push you into that well of black with all the force that he has. And it's a smart move on his part, too, because depression is an awful thing. How serious is it? Matt, where's your group at?
I didn't get one.
Dude.
20 people.
Let's do Zach's then. About 20% of teens will experience some form of depression before adulthood. Where's Heather's group? Keep standing. Where's Heather's group? Sex is one of the biggest pressures teens face, and often the biggest cause of depression. Yet 13% of kids have sex before they're 15. The stress is even worse if there's a pregnancy involved. You ready for this one? 90% of teenagers who are sexually active without any form of birth control get pregnant within 1 year. That'll shock you. Where's Lisa's group? %30 of 8th graders have tried alcohol. Lydia's group. 3% of 8th graders smoke. Grant's group. 10% of 8th graders have smoked pot. If there's anyone else sitting, I think we're about there. Anyone else, go ahead and stand. 20% of teens have admitted to purposely injuring themselves. This includes eating disorders, cutting, pulling out hair, burning themselves. Let's take it a step further. Someone taking their own life is the 4th highest killer of teenagers. Look around. You're all standing. We all experience stress. We will all be affected by depression, whether it happens to us or someone we know or love. Go ahead and see. When you're depressed, never felt this. If you have never felt this, when you're depressed, there's an emptiness inside of you. You are a hollowed out, emotionless shell. You feel like the world's light has vanished, leaving you alone to be swallowed by a massive black hole. I would know. During my sophomore year of high school, I went through a bout of depression. During this time, I isolated myself from all of my friends. If they tried to talk to me at school, I just sat there, unresponsive. I wasn't trying to be mean, I wasn't trying to be a jerk, it's just, I simply didn't hear them. I was dead inside, empty. I was never angry or sad because I had to have emotions to be angry, or to feel anger, or to feel sadness. I felt nothing. I never yelled, I never laughed, I never cried, I never spoke. There would literally be days where from the moment I woke up in the morning to the moment I went to bed at night, I didn't say a single word. Any fans out there will know what I'm talking about. The Walking Dead premieres tonight. That was me. I was The Walking Dead. I was a zombie. After school, I came home and listened to music. That was it. For hours. By the time the rest of my family showed up, the sun had already set, and I hadn't bothered to turn on one light. They would walk into a pitch black house to find me sitting in a chair listening to music. When they would turn on that light, I would get up, move to a different room, and resume this practice in that room. See, in the dark, I disappeared. I could see nothing. Nothing could see me. I couldn't see myself. I vanished. I preferred not being there because it reflected what I felt inside. Nothing. I felt that there was nothing inside me. One night, as I sat in that dark room, and I moved from the living room into this other room, wallowing in the well Satan put me in, my mind began to wander. I started to think about how I would take my own life. Now, I knew it was something I wouldn't actually do, but I allowed my brain to come up with options that would be the quickest and least painful. That's all. If I was ever inclined to do it, how would I do it? I didn't think option A would work. Option B would have been too easy to screw up. And as my mind turned to option C, something snapped. Something broke loose in my chest. I felt something. I felt fear. What are you doing? My brain screamed. Is this how far you've fallen? For the first time in 7 months, I experienced true emotions. It was as if someone poured Drano in my clogged emotional pipes, and they all came flooding out. I was terrified that I'd reached this level. I was angry with myself for letting it happen. I was sad for abandoning my friends and hurting my family. Pandora's box was open, and I felt it all. Emotional overload. My system started to shut down. Suddenly, I couldn't breathe. I literally dropped to my hands and knees, and finally the flood broke through the dam. As the tears streamed from my eyes, my body violently shook with emotional spasms. My breath, my life, finally returned. In that moment, I turned to God. I spoke only 2 words. Help me. Seconds later, I fell asleep on the floor. Jesus says, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. The next morning, I woke up and felt lighter. Physically lighter, as if someone had taken the weight of a car off of my chest. I smiled for the first time in months. It physically hurt my cheeks because I hadn't done it for so long. During my second period at school that day, 2 people sat down next to me and just started talking. They were friends of mine from way back in elementary school, 4th, 5th grade, but we hadn't been close in years. They had the same class with me all year long. This is the end of March, beginning of April. They'd been in this class with me all year. But this day, they sat down next to me and struck up a conversation for the first time. Notice the key word there, a conversation. I talked back. I joined in the conversation. I realized it felt good to talk. I humbly went back to my old friends and my family, and I began to open up and just sharing what I'd been going through the last months, the entire sophomore school year. And the more I talked, the better I felt. It wasn't instant. I had bad days. But over the next few months, I began to heal. What's more, because my friends now knew what was going on, whenever I had a bad day, they wouldn't let me stay quiet. They wouldn't let me hold it in. They wouldn't let me run into that dark pit again. They were determined to help. Have you ever noticed how we never ask for help? We see it as a sign of weakness. I'm too tough, I'm too strong, I don't need help. We refuse help. Watching football day and people with broken limbs will come off the field and then collapse. They don't need any help, they don't want to show any weakness. Whatever our problem is, we believe we can handle it all on our own. And guess what? We're wrong. Meanwhile, until we do something about it, Satan's just going to keep piling on. He's betting we're going to let him. He's assuming we won't ask for help. Of all the teens that suffer depression, 80% of those that actually look for help, that seek help, get the help they need. 80%. Sadly, only 30% of teenagers who suffer from depression actually look for help. If we let it go, if you let it go, you'll lose friends. You'll have more problems at school, more problems at home. 30% of people who let their depression go untreated develop a substance abuse problem. They're more likely to be sexually active and get STDs and pregnant. And they're 12 times more likely to make an attempt in their life. Here's the thing. You can't beat Satan by yourself. You can't. None of us can. He's too strong. Taking on Satan would be like challenging the Hulk in an ultimate fighting contest. You'll get destroyed. However, one of the things the Bible tells us again and again and again is that Jesus is your champion. You don't need to stand in that ring against the Hulk. You don't need to stand in that ring against Satan. Jesus got your back. He's your light. And Satan's darkness never has and never will overcome that. Will never beat it. Will never defeat it. Going through a dark moment in your life, talk to someone. The worst thing you can do, the worst thing in the world you can do is hold it.